Even 20 years after his arguable apex as a WWE performer, HBK still looks, still acts, and most importantly, still feels like the showstopper. And to be fair, that's probably because back in the day, Michaels lived up to that moniker each and every time. Unfortunately for some fans, particularly those of Little Rock, Arkansas back in 1997, the showstopper had a habit of taking his moniker a little bit too seriously. And with that in mind, my name is Adam Nicholas, and today I want to talk to you about that time DX was so hated, WWF fans rioted a house show. By December 1997, Shawn Michaels' recklessness was effectively being rewarded by Vince McMahon, and for 2 years prior to this, from many accounts outside of the infamous Clique, Shawn Michaels had been a nightmare to work with and was verging on the impossible. As the Heartbreak Kid continued his rise to the top of the company, his mammoth ego as WWE champion, his rampant insecurity as a feature act on a failing show, and his addiction to alcohol and pain pills would all combine together to make a combination that was absolutely toxic and far worse than anything he'd managed to drink in that time period. If 1996 was the year that Shawn Michaels cemented himself as a worker the ilk of the legendary Ric Flair, then unfortunately 1997 would see the Heartbreak Kid emulate the Nature Boy's self-destructive tendencies, an emotional turnaround that happened at breakneck speed. Michaels' fragility in the top spot had already been made apparent long before any of this, when outside a Syracuse nightclub in 1995, he took an absolute beating at the hands of a WWE fan. The company's PR team had to spin this so that it looked like a thuggish attack on one of wrestling's heroes, when in actual fact it was more of a provocative skirmish that was instigated by the Heartbreak Kid. This was the type of trouble and bad publicity that eluded previous champion Bret Hart, and while Hart may have had his own troubles, and Lord knows they've been well documented, he always put the company and most importantly the industry ahead of anything else. Bret Hart would never have let this happen on his watch, but unfortunately Bret was long gone at this point. Shawn Michaels was spiraling out of control, and things were about to get a whole lot worse. Realizing they had paid to see WWE's worst when they could have quite literally been sat at home watching WWE's best on their television, it's safe to say the fans were not best pleased at all and decided to vent their frustrations in the only way that a gang of angry fans knows how: throwing beer cups, chucking assorted rubbish, and in some cases spitting at wrestlers too. Instead of getting the pleasure of watching Stone Cold throw The Rock's Intercontinental title into a river, or watching Owen Hart kick off with Vince McMahon post-Screwjob, or even D-Generation X beating the ever-living daylights out of the Legion of Doom, they got none of that, but what they did get in exchange was something wonderful. They got Kane versus Chains, they got Mark Mero versus Flash Funk, and they got the Godwins versus the Headbangers in a country whipping match. A country whipping match. Can you even believe? Are they surprised these fans were kicking off? I mean, I've just said those words out loud, and that's actually hurt me a little bit inside. I think I would have been throwing more than beer cups and spit, to be honest. They did, however, get a non-title casket match between The Undertaker and then IC champion The Rock, which lasted less than 10 minutes. And then they were supposed to get the main event of D-Generation X versus Stone Cold and Dude Love. But, how should I put this? Things didn't exactly go to plan. As D-Generation X were making their way to the ring, Michaels was hit by a piece of paper thrown by the fans, and the irony here is, of course, that immediately after this, not only would the paper be hitting Michaels in the head, but the shit would be about to hit the fan in all of the ways. Michaels grabbed the mic, set faces to bastard, and told the Little Rock, Arkansas fans that they had just lost their main event. And as you can imagine, they took that very well indeed. All smiles, they walked home quietly and went home to reflect upon their bad behaviour. And by that I mean they were absolutely furious. What followed was an absolute riot, and I'm not talking Ruby with 2 T's. The red mist had descended, the Barton Coliseum had gone crazy. Fans were fighting amongst themselves, event staff had been assaulted by fans, there was fires being started, glass bottles were being thrown, chairs were being thrown. It was absolute chaos. And as you can imagine, the 6,000 strong crowd of angry wrestling fans very quickly overwhelmed the 20 or 30 security guards who were probably on that night. They had to call the police. The police then had to turn up, distribute tear gas everywhere to calm the place down, and some of the fans ended up going home in handcuffs. I mean, if that's not good, wholesome family entertainment, then I don't know what is. And with that, Shawn Michaels had indeed reached peak bastard. The chaos that ensued was all his doing, but like it or not, he was just living up to his monikers. The show had indeed been stopped, hearts had indeed been broken, and when the dust settled, he was still a very sexy boy. So there you go, that's our video, and the moral of the story there, Don't throw paper at Shawn Michaels. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share. Hit the old subscribe button if you haven't already, or if you just want more of our content, there should be some around me down below. My name's Adam Nicholas, and I'll see you next time.